As the world grapples with migration-related challenges, the South African government, the International Organization for Migration, and a number of several partners are meeting in Johannesburg to look at benefits offered by the mass movement of people. South Africa tends to attract a number of migrants from Southern Africa and other areas. Khayelihle Khumalo is part of our team watching this conference and joins us now live from Sandton. And I suppose the nexus question, or the central question to be answered here, Khayelihle, is whether or not migration is helping or hurting a country like South Africa.
Well, absolutely. So that's one of the pertinent questions, especially because, this is a very complex subject matter. But for the longest time, the issue of irregular migration has always been a hot potato. For example, you look at here in South Africa during the course of the election. That was one of the main talking points. But it's not really peculiar to South Africa. Globally, you see these patterns. But what is very important about this gathering is the issue of looking at also the benefits, as opposed to look at just the disadvantages or the drawbacks that are presented by migration, but also looking at how migration can be used as a catalyst, but to really just give us a sense about the importance of this particular gathering. We're joined by a commissioner from the NPC, of course, that's Prof. Magidimisha-Chipungu. So once again, Commissioner, thank you so much for your time. So I suppose this is a very complex subject matter, especially in the context of South Africa, where the country continues to be a magnet for a substantial number of migrants.
Yes, I fully agree with you. Issues around migrations are very complex in South Africa, and as a National Planning Commission, we thought we can take a step further and use our power to convene different government departments. And of course, also, we cannot have a discussion about migration and conclude it without inviting the neighboring countries. And that's why we find that we have almost everyone that we need right now on the table to discuss and find a way forward and advise accordingly in our role as advisor.
It comes at a critical time here in South Africa, for example, with the GNU government. For example, the Home Affairs Department, they're overhauling the system. They're looking for the new Immigration Advisory Board, but also a number of challenges as well. But let's look at the positive aspects, initially. Commissioner, what are some of the areas that we can look at in terms of the benefits? For example, just a short while ago, one of the speakers was speaking about the complexities where you have the migrants, those who are highly skilled, you have those who are semi-skilled, but then you have those also who really do not have skills.
Yeah, it's a very complex issue, like you said, especially when you start looking at the job opportunities in South Africa, because as it is, we also have problem in terms of job opportunities for South Africans themselves, and that's why we find that there's contested kind of space among South Africans. But when you look at the benefit, is that you want to step out of that to say, what is it that South Africa needs the most and does not have? And so that we can start looking for those gaps and fill those gaps. And in the presentation that we had yesterday from Department of Labour, they've got a system actually to sift through to say, these are the skills that we've checked throughout the country. We do not have these skills, and we are going out to source out these skills, and we need to fill those skills. So I found this at the discussion that we are not having a lot of them in the country. We are focusing on the lower spectrum of things and forgetting about the whole picture. So what we are trying to do as the NPC is to say, let's look at everything. So the bad and the ugly and the good, of course, and elevate that and say, how do we sift through? How do we navigate as a country? Because it's not an easy thing. It's not an easy subject, migration.
Certainly not a very easy subject matter, Commissioner, especially in the context of Southern Africa, where migration, you look at the mining sector, where the migrants came from Mozambique, Lesotho, and many other countries as well. But let's look at, for example, the labor migration, the contestation over the limited resources at times. And I suppose that's when it becomes a bit of a very contentious issue.
Of course, we are struggling as a country also to create job opportunity for South Africans, and then you also have a group of migrants coming to South Africa also contesting the same resources. But I think what we ought to be looking at is that how do we navigate this? Why? I think the focus, what we're focusing on, is on the symptoms, but we want to start focusing on the cause of that. Why do we have so many migrants coming to South Africa? Why are we the magnet? And now, if we deal with that, then how do we then stabilize, even working with the other countries? Because obviously, these people, they're coming from somewhere else. So how do we work with the regional offices, in different departments, to try to stabilize and see how do we help each other to carry this load? I don't think the discussion about to say, let's just let go of migrants without actually having a strategy and discussions within the region to say, what do we need to do as a region? So I think that's where we are going with this discussion.
And just before I let you go, Commissioner, obviously it's a 4-day affair. Expectations in terms of deliverables, the way forward. What are you hoping to see as takeaways from these discussions? I mean, surely you have quite a number of experts here from IOM, United Nations, and many other areas as well.
Yeah, so what we're expecting really is to hear from everyone else, and we're trying to diagnose the problem. We already know at a very high level these are the problems, but we want to come up with an advisory which we're able to say this is the direction in which we should take. But now for us to come up with that advisory, we need to have talked to most of the departments which are affected. So that's why we have Home Affairs, we have Department of Labour, we have even our international offices in terms of UN and all that like you have mentioned. So when we hear everyone speak, then we say, what is the best way out? So we are trying to come up with the solution, but not on our own, because we understand migration is a cross-cutter across different sectors. So we cannot, it's not just a home affairs issue, it's labor, it's service delivery, it's everything. So we want to talk to as much people as we can, then we come up with the strategies and advise. Of course, as NPs, we are not implementing agents, so our job is to advise, and that's what we are planning to do.
All right, Commissioner, thank you so much indeed. Of course, that's Commissioner Hope Magidimisha-Chipungu from the NPC, really talking about the significance of this gathering. As you know, that migration is a very important issue, and quite a number of discussions have been previously held. And there are so many causes behind migration, issues of conflict, the climate change, just looking at Southern Africa, but also the Horn of Africa, but South Africa as well, here in Southern Africa, becoming a very important destination for migrants, but also looking at ways to minimize the conflicts between the sending countries and the host country, and many other countries as well in sub-Saharan Africa that are hosting migrants. But this particular summit is really shining a spotlight really here in Southern Africa.